MTG Lore with Eggs, Final Fantasy Edition. Hello and welcome back to another installment of MTG Lore with Eggs, where we normally tell you some of Magic the Gathering's newest, oldest, and most interesting stories as told by Eggs. But this week, we're doing something entirely different. Final Fantasy is the latest series to collaborate with Magic the Gathering for a Universes Beyond crossover, with a full set of cards featuring a ton of characters, places, and events from the first game all the way to game number 16. So to celebrate that crossover, we're going to tell you the story for each and every mainline Final Fantasy game, told, as expected, with Eggs. Disclaimer, the goal of this video isn't to get super in-depth with details, but to tell you the basic summary of what happens for each entry in a quick and lighthearted way. If I miss something important, make a mistake, or don't feature one of your favorite characters, let me know about it in the comments below. So saddle up your chocobos and break out your crystal polish. We're going on an excellent fantasy adventure. Finally, Final Fantasy I, the first one. The first game in the series, it's a pretty classic fantasy RPG, a world full of mythical creatures, 4 magical crystals gone dark, a giant space station. Wait, what? Well, apparently magic and a strong enough breeze can send you into space. The more you know. So we got these 4 elemental crystals, air, fire, earth, and water, that do a lot of good magical stuff, keeping the world in balance and such. But for some reason, 400 years ago, they all went dark, throwing the world off kilter and doing a lot of bad stuff. That's where you come in, as in you, the player, a generic unnamed warrior of light. And you get to make your own team to save the day and restore the balance of the world. You get to make your team out of a variety of classes, such as fighter, thief, black belt, red mage, white mage, black mage. Geez, that's a lot of mages. But anyhow, you can only pick 4, so yay for replayability. So your team is fated to save the world, and to do that, you gotta travel around and beat these 4 fiends. 4 fiends, 4 crystals, makes sense. And of course, you get a lot of dungeon crawling, where you have to fight vampires and pirates, rescue some princes and princesses from the evil Knight Garland, no less. He's a big bad antagonist. Get a witch a magical eyeball and find some TNT, the whole 9 yards. Once you've fixed the 4 crystals by traveling to a cave, a volcano, a sunken shrine, and the aforementioned space station, like seriously, a space station? And beaten the fiends, you go to the final boss temple and travel back in time, only to find out that the fiends had sent that one Knight Garland back in time as an archdemon to create the fiends in the first place and send them to the future. Or make sure that they were made so that they could send him back to send them forward? It's a time loop. You know, he's trying to live forever on a technicality. Kick his butt, get sent back to the present, and bing bang boom, the day is saved. Then, you're quickly consigned to legend. No parade or medal ceremony, not even a gift card. Still, quite a lot of fun. Final Fantasy II, where the characters have actual names and stuff. We got our main guy, Firion, also known as Frionel. Maria, who's an archer and a solid enemy of the big bad evil empire. Gus, or Guy, the animal talking monk. And Leon, aka Leonhardt, who's a dark knight with his own troubled conscience. Very emo. These heroes are part of the rebellion of the Kingdom of Fynn against the wicked Emperor of Palamecia. No name provided, but let's just call him Mark. After getting attacked by Mark's Empire forces and rescued by Princess Hilda, except for Leon, our group of intrepid heroes are sent out on various missions, gathering info from dying princes, getting mithril for weapons, rescuing the princess after she's captured, though it turns out she was actually an imposter, and then they saved the real one. Leon, meanwhile, got captured by the Empire and was forced by Mark to become a Dark Knight, which really sucks for him. Anyhow, the heroes eventually retake the kingdom, then use that freshly hatched wyvern, or wyvern, to get to the castle, which is conveniently, or inconveniently, located in a cyclone, to kill Emperor Mark, only to find out that Leon has decided to make a coup for himself. Betrayal. But then Emperor Mark shows up as a demon. He took over hell right quick when he died, and got sent there, and aims to destroy the world. So the heroes and Leon team up to seal Emperor Mark away, going into the literal underworld to take him out permanently. Leon then goes off on a trauma walk, even though his friends still would welcome him back. Oh, and this is also the game that first gave us chocobos, so that's fun. Final Fantasy III, the one with the retcon beginning, which is better. This game's got elemental magic crystals too, except these ones are light and dark crystals. And there's even a floating continent that comes up. Way back in ye olden times, an ancient advanced civilization tried to use the light crystals to turn on their electricity, but it ended up backfiring. 4 heroes had to wield the dark crystals to capture the light ones and put the world back in balance, but the damage was done sun, and the civilization crumbled without power for their air conditioning. But back in the present, we got two orphans named Luneth and Ark. Refie, who was a blacksmith's apprentice, and Ingus, who was a knight of the kingdom. In the original story, they were just called Onion Knights, and they were all orphans. An earthquake happens near Luneth and Ark's village, and the earthquake reveals one of those long-lost light crystals and tells the orphans to rebalance the world, then sets them up on a path to meet the other two. The orphans head to the world below their floating continent and discover some bad warlock named Zandy is looking to recreate that big light crystal imbalance that happened so long ago to destroy the world. So they go around to find and free the original Dark Warriors from the Dark Crystals. They're still alive, which is kind of cool, and by doing so, rebalance the world of light and dark. Straightforward stuff. It turns out, Zandy, though, is actually a puppet for the Cloud of Darkness, which kind of just looks like an evil deity lady with tentacles. The Cloud of Darkness absorbs Zandy to become super powerful, invulnerable even. But then the Warriors of Darkness sacrifice themselves to weaken her, and she gets her butt kicked. Everyone ends up going their separate ways and lives happily ever after. Final Fantasy IV, aka Final Fantasy II, American Edition. We got more magic crystals, y'all, though the plot does seem a bit more intensive. Our main character is Cecil, a dark knight. This time, the main character and his friend Kain are working for the Kingdom of Baron. And the twist is that the kingdom is doing some pretty shady stuff. Like the other games, there are some big elemental crystals, but the king of Baron wants to collect them for his own unknown purposes. Cecil feels a bit weird about attacking a city to steal their water crystal. He and Kain get separated because of a ring-born firebomb destroying the town they're visiting, and also Rydia summoning a giant titan that causes an earthquake. But hey, at least he and Rydia become allies, saving her from soldiers trying to kill her. Well, I mean, they did also kill her village, so it's a bit of a 50-50. This starts Cecil off on the path of redemption, traveling around the world to try and protect the remaining elemental crystals and make up for his previous bad deeds, while being set up against his friend Kain, who's actually being mind-controlled by an evil sorcerer. There's lots of traveling to try and save the remaining crystals, and he ends up gathering his own posse of companions. Cecil also gets his side quest where he goes and climbs a mountain, trying to atone for the bad stuff he did, and he turns from a dark knight to a paladin. See, the mountain is a metaphor for the burden of his troubled past and actions, and it's also a literal mountain. He also gets a fun sword. Eventually, it's revealed that the king is actually an imposter, a lackey for the evil sorcerer Golbez, the same guy who's mind-controlling Kain. And Kain gets freed from his mind control, then he gets mind-controlled again, only to be broken free from his mind control. Eventually, they have to go up to the moon, naturally, and they take a spaceship to get there. They meet this other moon guide named Fusoya, who reveals that Golbez is actually from the moon too.
That wizard came from the moon.
And that he is being manipulated by another big bad evil guy named Zemus, who wants to wipe out the whole world using a big old giant. It's also revealed that Cecil is half moon person. Party heads back down to the planet to face this giant, and everyone in the world works together to fight against it. Party manages to break into the giant, kill the archfiends that are inside of it, and break its CPU. Oh, yeah, I also forgot to mention that it's a robot. Let's keep going. Plot twist, turns out Golbez is actually Cecil's long-lost brother. This is one juicy story and one long chain of mind control. But now that he's free, Golbez heads up to the moon to stop Zemus, and the rest of the party follows in their spaceship again. They arrive just in time to see Golbez defeat Zemus, only for Zemus' evil spirit to turn into an even bigger monster, Zeromus, who defeats him and then attacks Cecil and the gang and takes them out. Luckily, the rest of their allies on the planet are able to bring them back to life with prayer, and they manage to beat Zeromus. Turns out, thoughts and prayers work wonders in Final Fantasy at least. Golbez goes off with the moon people, and the moon they're on heads back into space. The rest of the party splits off to go back to their respective kingdoms, and Kain goes to the Mountain of Ordeals to also atone for his actions and prove himself worthy. And the mountain is still a metaphor for the burden of his troubled past and actions, and also a literal mountain. Final Fantasy V. We got more crystals! So many crystals! Gosh, there's so many crystals. This world is kept in balance once again by 4 elemental crystals, with 3 of them protected by current kingdoms and the 4th hidden with a lost civilization. The wind crystal is in the kingdom of Tycoon, and the king goes to check on said crystal. It shatters immediately. His daughter Lena decides to go check on what's happening when her father doesn't come back from the temple. Meanwhile, a meteorite crashes near the castle, except there's an old man inside named Galuf. A wanderer named Bartz and his chocobo Boko are nearby, and coincidence or fate brings them in contact with Lena. They all agree to head to the Wind Shrine. To get there, they need a ride and decide to steal a pirate ship, only to be caught immediately. And though the captain, Ferris, locks them up briefly, he ends up deciding to go with them because him and Lena both have the same pendant for some reason. When they get to the shrine, the shattered wind crystal remnants give each of them an elemental alignment, and the king tells them to try and protect the other crystals before they get destroyed too. And like every Final Fantasy game, there are tons of plot twists and surprises as the team sets out to protect these crystals. But here are some highlights. Ferris turns out to be a woman, and that woman turns out to be Lena's sister. Galuf recovers from amnesia and turns out to be the leader of a warrior group from another dimension, and then he dies. His granddaughter, Kryl, takes over his role. A werewolf comes out of a meteor, helps save the party, and then he dies. Castles explode, they ride wyverns and chocobo and an airship and a submarine. The bad guy pops out of a splinter, and more people die, like a whole bunch. Even the king of Tycoon dies. In the end, after beating the big baddie's lackey Gilgamesh, who ends up being fired for being crap, kicked into an interdimensional rift so he could appear in later game titles, of course, and beating the bad guy Exdeath, it's revealed that Exdeath has fused with the Void itself and become a super powerful, evil, animated tree. The heroes fight Exdeath, and the spirits of their dead allies, like Galuf and the King Tycoon, comes to aid them and make the bad guy vulnerable. So the heroes manage to beat him eventually, and the crystals end up being reborn from the shards they carry, so life is all good. Lena goes back to rule her kingdom, Ferris rejoins her pirates, Bartz is a wanderer, and Kryl goes home, though they all vow to protect the crystals. Final Fantasy VI, the one with the Joker. Our story begins when a woman with magic powers for some reason is sent with soldiers to follow up on rumors of a frozen Esper in a distant city, only for that Esper to blow up, kill the other two soldiers, and destroy the armor the woman was wearing, which was actually mind controlling her. When she comes to, all she remembers is that her name is Terra, and that this guy named Kefka put that armor on her to try and use her magic for his own purposes. The person who rescues Terra is able to get her in touch with a member of the Returners, a rebel group that's trying to fight against the Empire, named Locke. Also, there's some Moogles who help them escape, because Moogles are fun. This starts something of a cat and mouse game between the Returners and Kefka's Imperial forces, and Kefka himself, with the group traveling around the world and recruiting allies, such as Celeste, a former Imperial officer, for their rebellion, while the bad guys try and attack them, do some heckin' murders, and generally be jerks. The Returners discover that the Empire is getting their power from magic, and that the Espers, including that frozen one, could be the key to beating them. Meanwhile, Terra's trying to figure out who she is as a person and whether she's capable of love. So, they head back to the city they started on, just in time to defend that frozen Esper from an Imperial attack. But another wave of magic does something weird to Terra, who transforms into a big pink monster and flies away. Everyone else just kind of watches it. The party catches up to Terra quickly, and then we get a bunch of info dumping and side quests. We learn that Terra's power is related to the Espers, and later we learn that she is half Esper. They go and hijack an opera for some hijinks. And then they hijack an airship for some hijinks. And recruit the playboy who owns it. They raid a factory, and Celeste is revealed as maybe a traitor, but not really. All madness. Still, there's hope that the Espers and humans could live together. Coincidentally, the Emperor Gestahl meets with these rebels, and after seeing the Espers' destructive magical power, tells them he wants a peaceful truce. Because of course, every Emperor in these games is completely trustworthy and would never pull off a double cross. The double cross happens almost immediately, with Kefka and the Emperor only wanting to get to the Espers and the warring triad, though Celeste has proven a true friend. And then Kefka does his own double cross, Sparta kicking the Emperor off of the warring triad's floating island. Then Kefka manages to absorb the power of the three former gods, becoming the god of magic himself, changing the entire world, and sends the party scattering across the globe. And Kefka wins! Well, at least for a year. Eventually, Celeste, who was napping the whole time, wakes up and decides she's gonna get the band back together. So she heads off to find the other returners, and all of them have been working to survive in this new, shattered world. Terra, notably, has been taking care of some orphans, to whom she's gotten really attached to, and that will be important at the end of the game. Some of the returners are fighting in arenas, some are in cults, one of them's catfishing, but once they're all back together, they recommit themselves to their cause and head off to face Kefka Kefka in his raised trashy tower. As in, it's literally made out of trash, and also it's kinda tacky. Kefka tells the returners he's realized all human life is meaningless, and the returners counter by saying the act of just living makes life worth it. Kefka's gone full nihilist though, and is looking to destroy everything with his light of judgment magic. So the party just kinda kills him. No big sweat. Terra uses what magic she has left to get the party out of the tower as it collapses, and before her magic and any of the Esper Magicite in the world dissolves. But because she found that connection to them kids, and she realized how much she loves them, she's able to use that strong connection to keep herself alive and become a fully human person. The world starts to rebuild, and Terra is free to live her own life. Quite a meaningful ending. Final Fantasy VII, aka Attack of the Clones, and also the first one for the PlayStation era. Whew, alright, here we go. If we thought that last game was a departure from the traditional fantasy setting, this one's gonna knock your socks off. Gone is the evil mage or kingdom or empire, and in its place is an evil mega corporation and the true villain, capitalism. Well, except for the other much bigger baddie who slowly discovered over the course of the game, but we'll get to that. We've got Avalanche, the rebel group looking to overthrow Shinra, the aforementioned mega corporation, and they make up the player's party with people like Tifa, Barret, and Aerith, as well as Cloud, a mercenary who's pretty much the main character of the story. There's also Sephiroth, the mysterious villain with ties to Cloud's past who becomes a real problem real fast. This game also gets real convoluted plot-wise, and that's largely due to clones. But here are some highlights. Half of Avalanche gets a building dropped on him. Aerith is part of an ancient race called the Cetra, who could supposedly access a land full of life energy, which Shinra wants to use to turn on their air conditioning, for profit. Yay, capitalism. A mad scientist was sticking genes from this alien Genova into everybody, including Sephiroth, who was using them for his own shenanigans. Shinra kidnaps Aerith, but then Sephiroth attacks for his own goals, killing the president and giving the party a chance to escape. Cloud's hometown is filled with actors and Sephiroth clones, except they aren't really clones, but people with Genova genes who are being manipulated by Sephiroth. There are also a lot of actual Sephiroth clones, but they're kind of like different aspects of the original guy and with various amounts of Genova mixed in. Cloud gets to go on a nice date. Sephiroth also reveals that Cloud is, supposedly, a Sephiroth clone himself, and implanted with fake memories gives Cloud a real headache. Sephiroth wants this ancient magical stuff called materia that he could use to create the ultimate deadly spell, which would blow up the planet, but also help him in the process of becoming a god, while Aerith is looking for some way to stop them. And in what's likely the most iconic moment of the entire franchise, Sephiroth fails to get Cloud to kill Aerith, so he goes and does it himself.
Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I shall die before I wake, I pray the Lord.
Shinra tries to blow up the meteor spell that Sephiroth summoned, only for the mad scientist to make the place blow up and help Sephiroth out, though they managed to get one shot off that left Sephiroth vulnerable for the party to go after him. Cloud and Tifa go through a whole journey of the mind and discover that Cloud is actually a real person. Cloud and Sephiroth have an epic boss battle, with Sephiroth going from 1 wing to 7, and the two end up fighting with willpower in a current of pure life stream, before Cloud emerges victorious. Despite having been dead, Aerith had managed to summon the holy spell to counter the meteor spell, and her spirit was able to help the party save the world. Minus a few cities here and there, of course. Cloud becomes a delivery boy. The end. Gosh, clones make everything so convoluted. Final Fantasy VIII, the one that brings some of the coolest blades in fiction. Blades that are guns. We're back to a slightly more fantasy world for this one. But we also have gunblades, which are objectively really, really cool. So not entirely fantasy. We're in a world that's split up amongst a bunch of city-states, and years ago, two of them, Esther and Galbadia, had gone to war to try and take over the world. Esther was ruled by this sorceress, Adele, who was a real crazy dictator, but then something happened. Adele disappeared, and the country of Esther went into isolation, which left Galbadia ruling their entire continent. Recently, a new organization, an independent paramilitary group called a Garden, formed. They hire out their forces as mercenaries for various missions, and our main characters are part of it. Squall is our main guy, and he gets sent out on a test mission with his friends Zell and Selfie, and his rival Cypher, who is just like him, but a bit grumpy. Cypher is pretty selfish though on this mission, and he goes off trying to do stuff on his own, leaving the rest of the group to work without him. Turns out that being a jerk doesn't exactly help your chances of passing a test, so Cypher fails, while the rest pass and get assigned to a real mission. They're being tasked with helping a rebel group kidnap the Galbadian president, and they've got a girl named Renoa who's there to work with them. This mission ends up going south, but it's due to some plot twists they couldn't see coming, like Cypher showing up out of nowhere to grab the president and teleporting out of there, along with the mysterious sorceress, Adia. The group gets a new mission to track down and take out Adia, and they go to do that, only to fail. Adia kills the president and pulls off a coup to take over the country, and Cypher ends up as her sorceress knight. Headmaster Sid tells Squall that he's been fated to fight against the sorceress, and it's one of the reasons he's being trained. But once they fight her and defeat her, it's revealed that she was possessed by a different sorceress altogether from the future. She has a really cool name though, Ultimecia. Or Ultimecia? Ultimecia? One of those. See, she's from the future, but she uses time magic to possess people in the past so that she could affect stuff in the present, which is her past, to try and destroy the future using some time compression magic. Something like that. There are probably easier ways to destroy the world, but you know, go off, queen, I guess. When Adia was defeated, Renoa ends up inheriting Adia's sorceress powers, but then Renoa gets kidnapped and possessed by Ultimecia herself, which is very inconvenient. It's also revealed that Adia had actually started the orphanage that Squall grew up in and is Sid's wife, so she was never really a bad person. Squall also remembers that his sister, Alone, has a unique ability to send people's consciousness back and forward through time. Ultimecia uses Renoa's possessed body to head up to a space station around the planet. It turns out that old sorceress dictator Adele, who had disappeared, hadn't died. She just ended up imprisoned by her own country in space. Ultimecia goes and possesses her powerful body and ditches Renoa. Squall and the group go to S-Star to meet with his sister, hoping she can use her abilities to help them stop Ultimecia. Though they do run into Cypher again, who's been really going through it. It turns out his childhood dream of being a sorceress's knight has turned out to be a real drag. Once he's defeated, he doesn't die though, which is nice, and he ends up going fishing. Squall's sister does her time travel consciousness magic thing, sending Squall and his crew to the future to defeat Ultimecia in her own time and stop her meddling. And after an epic boss fight, they manage to do so. Alone's time travel overshoots the mark a bit when they try to head back, and Squall, along with the dying Ultimecia, end up in the orphanage that Squall grew up in, where Ultimecia's powers end up being inherited by a shocked Adia, and Squall tells her to prepare his childhood self to fight a sorceress in the future, thus creating a time loop and preparing himself for his own destiny, and making Ultimecia the agent of her own demise. It's nice when time loops kind of wrap themselves up like that. Final Fantasy IX, the one with the mists. We're in a world with 4 continents, and the biggest one's got 4 kingdoms, as well as a crap ton of monster-infested mist. But hey, the mist also powers their airships, so that's kind of cool. One of these kingdoms, Alexandria, has decided to go on a world-conquering tour, though their princess Garnet is not a big fan. She runs away and gets some help doing so from our main character, a thief/improv actor named Zidane. The fact that they were already contracted to kidnap her by another kingdom is neither here nor there. There's also a night guard named Steiner who won't leave him alone, and a black mage named Vivi who gets caught up in all of this, and they form our initial party. The ruler of Alexandria, Queen Bon, and this mage named Kuja are creating a black mage army to try and conquer the rest of their continent. So the party decides they should stop them, only for Garnet to get captured and some magical beast called Eidolons pulled out from inside of her. Naturally, she's as surprised about them being there as we are. the summoner Eiko takes the party to the FFIII, which is this big thing that I suppose bears some passing resemblance to a tree. Party investigates and discover it's actually messing up the life cycle of the planet. See, when people die, their souls are supposed to go to this crystal that's at the heart of the planet to rejuvenate the world. But the tree is somehow stopping it, which makes all those souls of people turn into mist. Meanwhile, Queen Bon is looking to do some backstabbing of Kuja and summons the Eidolon Bahamut to try and kill him, only for Kuja to turn the tables on her. It's okay though, she gets to apologize to Garnet for being a bad mom and a not so nice queen at the end before biting the bullet. And this means that Garnet gets to be queen. Her coronation ceremony is pretty brief because Kuja then goes to attack the kingdom with Bahamut. Eiko and Garnet manage to summon a different Eidolon called Alexander to try and kick its butt. And when Kuja tries to take over Alexander, his master, this guy named Garland, shows up to stop him by killing Alexander. Garland's the one who's been pulling all the strings and wanting the kingdoms of the planet to destroy each other, all to gather more souls. If I had a nickel for every time Final Fantasy had a big bad villain named Garland, I'd have 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it is strange that it happened twice. Pissed off to all hell, Kuja decides he's gonna try and overthrow Garland and take over the world himself. That's when we learned that there's this whole other world called Terra. See, Terra was a world-eating world that would merge with other planets to survive, and Garland was a leader amongst the people of that planet. When Garland brought their planet Terra to Gaia, current world, things went downhill real fast, and Terra got stuck inside the new planet instead of eating it. Garland created Kuja to try and hurry along the process of Terra absorbing Gaia's life crystal. But Kuja turned out to be a disappointment, so he created Zidane. Gasp. Zidane, naturally, is not a big fan of having been created simply to destroy the planet. When Zidane, who gets past this life-shattering revelation with a little help from his friends, and crew go to confront Garland, they see Kuja do some front stabbing of his own, killing the old construct and trying to absorb all the souls himself. That's when Garland, right before he dies, tells him that there's a failsafe built in and Kuja's not gonna live very long, which drives the guy a little bit crazy, so he decides he's just gonna burn everything, destroying the planet of Terra in the process. When he does, the FFIII goes loco, and all those souls that had been holding get kicked out, creating a weird time place called Memoria, and letting Kuja and the party travel back to the birth of the universe. The group managed to defeat Kuja, whose rage and destructive intent summoned this big entity named Necron, the embodiment of death and nothingness, aka the final boss of the game. The party's able to beat it down, and Kuja, having realized the purpose of life only after he got his butt kicked and was dying, manages to teleport the party back out of the FFIII, though Zidane sticks around to comfort Kuja, even as he dies. Everyone thinks that Zidane is dead, and life goes on. Sometime later, though, Queen Garnet is going to watch a play, because she loves the theater, and as a fun surprise, Zidane was disguised as the lead actor. They get to have a very romantic reunion, the end. But not really, because we still have like 6 more games to get through. Final Fantasy X, the one that's kinda like Inception but not really. Final Fantasy X also takes on a decidedly more spiritual twist, but we'll get to that later. Right now we've got some Blitzball to cover. Tidus is an up-and-coming blitzball star in the city of Zanarkand, which is this super swanky place that has a real thriving nightlife. His father, Jecht, was also a famous blitzball player, but he went missing 10 years ago. Anyhow, Tidus is playing at this game when a giant monster attacks and destroys the stadium, and Tidus somehow gets transported to this land called Spira. The language and the customs are all strange, but for some reason, Blitzball's still around, and he's still very good at it. After getting recruited to a local team and doing some ball kicking with Wakka, he meets Yuna, a summoner who's going on a pilgrimage to their sacred ruined city of Zanarkand, with the goal of stopping this giant monster Sin, the same one that attacked Tidus' Zanarkand. Tidus, clearly intrigued by a city having the same name as the one he grew up in, decides to go along with Wakka and some other friends/protectors. A lot of stuff happens in the meantime. There's some more people who were recruited to their party, Yuna almost marries a ghost, there's a whole murder mystery, but there are also some real whopper of plot twists for our main characters. Twist number 1, Tidus' father, Jecht, actually became the monster named Sin. And how is that possible? Twist number 2, the ritual that the summoners do to stop Sin, we discover is only a temporary fix. The summoner who does the ritual will kill Sin, only to end up taking their place and the monster being reborn from them after some time. And twist number 3. This is the big whopper. See, the party finds themselves on this mountain heading towards Xanarkand, and there's a giant wall filled with these trapped spirits called Faith. Spirits that were from the original Xanarkand. The guy who made Sin originally did so to try and protect the city, but the effort overwhelmed him and he became a parasitic monster that ended up destroying the city itself. Meanwhile, the people of the city got turned into this Faith and were forced to create a dream version of Xanarkand at its height. And since Tidus is from this dream world, he's a dream himself. After a millennia of dreaming, the Faith want to be able to go on to their final rest. But if they stop dreaming, then Dream Xanarkand and Tidus himself would cease to exist. Tidus decides they should still go through with it though, because it is the right thing to do. Yuna, meanwhile, has resolved to stop Sin in her own way and doesn't go through the whole replacement ritual. The party fights Sin head on and they go inside the monster, where they find Jecht, Tidus' father, at its heart. At his asking, Tidus destroys his father, and this sends the original creator of Sin, Yuevon, out of his possessed host. Once they're able to defeat him, Yuna uses her summoner abilities to send all the spirits and Sin itself on into the afterlife. With Sin gone, the Faith that were held captive are free too, heading to the next life, and with it, Tidus starts to fade away. Yuna and Tidus get to embrace one more time before he leaps off the airship and disappears, reuniting with the spirits of his father and a bunch of other dead people that we met throughout the game. But will Tidus stay dead? Well, for our story recap purposes, yes. Final Fantasy XI, aka the first cross-platform MMORPG. And who is the main character of this game, you might ask? Why, it's you! Now this game is a return to the much more heavy fantasy plot lines of earlier ones, and a return of big crystals. It's the Crystal Age, and sometime after the Crystal War, and the game involves collecting these magicite crystals and becoming part of a prophesized group called the Warriors of the Crystal. They really wanted to catch up on the crystal deficit from the last couple of games. Anywho, we get 3 nations, and you get to choose which one you want to be a part of as an adventurer, sent out to deal with a regrouping Beastman threat. 20 years ago, they had rallied behind this evil Shadow Lord and threatened to destroy the world, before heroes then managed to stop him. You get to go on some adventures before you meet up with some of the heroes who would stop the original Shadow Lord. Eventually, you're sent to Castle Zval to deal with the returning Shadow Lord, only to discover that it's actually this guy Raugrim, who was part of the team that had beat the Shadow Lord last time, only to be betrayed by some of his allies and have his girlfriend killed. Eventually though, not even an evil old forest possessing a bitter guy can stop you, the hero, and you're able to defeat him before you are rescued from the place and go back home to a hero's welcome. Naturally, there were some expansions and side quests, and I'm sure plenty of memeable moments, but that's the initial main quest in a nutshell. Final Fantasy XII, between a rock and a hard place, except those rocks and hard places are empires. Our story mostly takes place on one continent, with the Empire of Arcadia on one side, the Empire of Rosaria on the other side, and the Kingdom of Dalmasca caught in the middle, which is not a very comfortable place to be. Ash is the princess of Dalmasca, and her father's efforts to protect themselves fall apart pretty bad. She gets married to her childhood friend, a prince from a neighboring kingdom, only for him to end up killed in battle. Her father signs a peace agreement, only for him to end up getting assassinated by a guy pretending to be their knight captain, Bosk. And then the Arcadian Empire comes in and takes over. Like I said, pretty tough times. Now, forced to hide her identity, Ash joins the underground resistance to try and free her kingdom. She's even a part of this big mission to take out Vayne, the heir to the Empire and regent of Dalmasca, but it fails. Funny coincidence, there's this group of thieves and pirates, Van, Balthier, and Fran, who had gone into the castle for some thieving on the very same night. Luckily for them, they're all main characters, so they, plus the wrongfully imprisoned Bosk, get rescued to plot another day and make an uneasy alliance. Over their adventures / efforts for freedom, they learn that the Empire wants these super powerful magic stones, not crystals, from an ancient immortal race called Occurians. One of these Occurians, Venat, has actually gone rogue and is trying to help Arcadia take over the continent and out-influence his species, while the others are trying to influence Ash for their own goals, even showing her illusions of her dead husband, which is a real party foul. In the end, Ash decides to go against revenge and puts her faith in her friends and alliances over the power the Occurians can offer, and they're able to stop Vayne and the Occurian Venat from their own plans, even when they do their Super Saiyan fusion. Vayne's younger brother ends up taking the throne, makes peace with the world, and Ash gets to take back her kingdom, and the pirates head off on their own adventures once again. Final Fantasy XIII, A Tale of Two Cities, or Worlds. I never read the book. This planet is divided between the sci-fi futuristic floating world of Cocoon and the primitive, vicious wilderness of Pulse, the world below, and never the two shall mix. Last time they did, there was a bit of a war, and this big monster named Ragnarok tried to knock Cocoon out of the sky. In the end, the beast was only half-formed and failed, though a lot of Pulse's cities and population got wrecked, and the two sides grew ever more distrustful of each other. Oh yeah, there are also these beings called FFIII, I think that's how you say it, who are like semi-divine constructs made by the older gods who've long disappeared, though they now have their own methods and goals for caring for their respective people, some of them on Cocoon and some of them on Pulse. One of their methods includes branding people as LCA, which is kind of a boon and also a curse, giving the humans granted it extra powers, but also binding them to a quest or goal that the FFIII give them. And if they fail, they become mindless thralls, or turned into crystal, which is not a very fun trade-off. Our main girl, Lightning, cool name by the way, lives on Cocoon with her sister, Sarah, which is a much less cool name by the way. And when Sarah accidentally gets caught up in a purge, with the FFIII fearing that another FFIII from the surface world was trying to invade or cause some shenanigans, Lightning, Sarah's fiancé Snow, and some others, like this girl named Vanille, work together to try and fight back against their city's guardians. After Sarah gets turned into a crystal, and they all think she's dead. On their adventures, they end up getting taken by the god Pulse, and this god ends up branding the whole group as LCA, and setting them up to take out Cocoon. With little choice other than becoming mindless thralls, our party decides the best way to do this would be to destroy the FFIII in charge of Cocoon, especially once they realize that they've been pulling the strings and manipulating their world for millennia. Even worse, they learn that the FFIII have been planning to use the souls of people living on Cocoon to try and summon back their original god, the guy who made them, which is really not cool, and they're all being powered by the original FFIII, Orphan. We also learned that Vanille and her friend Fang had been LCLs for a long time, and that they were the ones who were meant to turn into Ragnarok to destroy Cocoon. Orphan tries to direct Fang and Vanille to turn into Ragnarok again, and Fang agrees, alone, but when the rest of them refuse to go along with his plans, Orphan turns them all into these monstrous CL, which are those mindless thralls we talked about, and the half-baked Ragnarok attacks but can't kill Orphan. In this messed up state though, the party is able to change the focus of their own quest and fate, burning out the brand and freeing themselves from the control of the FFIII. Now that they can do what they want and still have superpowers, the party is able to rally and kill Orphan, which sets the floating city to start crashing to the ground. Vanille and Fang morph together to become Ragnarok and catch the falling world before crystallizing themselves to hold it in place. Some Alanis Morissette levels of ironic, having a beast called Ragnarok end up saving the world instead of destroying it. With the FFIII's power broken, Sarah's also freed from her crystallized form, and the party plans to work together to try and rescue Vanille and Fang from their rocky fate. But the day, overall, is saved. Final Fantasy XIV, the other MMORPG. This time, you, the player, are a warrior of light, just like in the first game. See, you're one of these special prophesized heroes, chosen by the Mother Crystal, following in the Final Fantasy tradition of magic crystals, meant to save the world, fight bad guys, and get to work for one of 3 city-states. In a world recovering from a big evil war 5 years ago, as well as with an imminent empire threatening to take over. Luckily, you're not alone, other players not included, because there's this secret organization called the Scions that are trying to protect the world from big old magic beings that some races, like the Beastie Boys and Pixie People, can summon for whatever goal that they choose, usually for protection. So you go around and stop some of these races from summoning their big monsters, you meet with Sid, who's originally in disguise, and his employees, and you fight against this mysterious figure called La Habrea a few times, who we later find out is the real big bad guy. Also, the Scions get wiped out, so it's up to you and Sid to put it back together to fight against the encroaching empire and to stop whatever plans La Habrea is up to, along with his airship, the Enterprise. One of the generals from the evil empire, named Gaius, has managed to trick some of the beast races into summoning their primals, only to get his own Ultima weapon to eat them and absorb their power, which is very much not cool. With this new and very dangerous threat of the Empire looking to take over everybody, the city-states and the beast races unite to fight against them, and you go with Cid to invade their Praetorium, which is, their headquarters, taking out a few mid-bosses along the way. When you face and beat Gaius, he then hops into his Ultima weapon to try and blow you all to smithereens. But then La Habrea shows up, revealing that the Mother Crystal won't let the Warriors of Light go boom, and proves it by overloading the machine and making it and Gaius explode instead. Though Gaius is fine, he gets better later. What is La Habrea's game? He tells us. He gives us a quick villain monologue where he's saying that he wants to summon this big evil primal god. The chaos that the war would invoke would do so. Luckily for you, you're able to fight and stop him. Oh, and he was also possessing this guy that you know and you were kind of friends with, but now he's free, so that's good. Anywho, everything seems to be getting better, and you're at the start of a new era of cooperation amongst the races when a primal roar sounds out across the land. What that means, you'll have to find out in the next expansion pack, because that's it for the main story, or at least the revised one. Final Fantasy XV, aka Boy Band Road Trip. As is the classic Final Fantasy motif, we've got an empire and a smaller kingdom, a war in need of a peace agreement, and a powerful magical crystal. But now with sports cars. The Niflheim Empire controls 2 of the 3 continents on this planet, and the third, Lucis, has been at war with them for centuries, with Lucius's powerful magic crystal gifted from the gods themselves, keeping their capital protected. Now, in an effort to make peace, the royal prince Noctis is being set up to marry the Oracle, a priestess with powers to fight this super bad plague that comes around once in a while called the Star Scourge. Luckily, Noctis and the Oracle, Lady Lunafreya, already know each other and actually like each other, so it's probably going to work out fine. But of course, you never trust an empire in these games because the peace deal was all a lie, a ruse, so that Niflheim could break into the capital, kill the king, and steal that magical crystal in one fell swoop. Noctis and his friends head off in their sports car to reclaim the throne and to collect these 13 legendary magical weapons tied to the royal bloodline, which will help them do so. See, the real main antagonist of this game is this guy named Arden, who's a chancellor from Niflheim, and he gets involved in their business multiple times, even stabbing Lunafreya, even though she's the only person on the planet that can stop this really bad Star Scourge plague, which is currently getting worse, and even worse, she dies. Luckily though, her spirit sticks around. The group goes on a car trip, a train trip, they get on a ferry at some point, and the team travels around collecting all these weapons. They get separated and reunited, and they even get a chance to kill the Emperor, who had been turned into a demon because of the Star Scourge. See, this is why you shouldn't kill the priestess who's supposed to stop it. But he'd make a pretty crummy boss fight otherwise. So, we'll go with it. Eventually, Noctis gets to the stolen crystal and gets sucked into it for a whole decade. Crystals really can't do anything in this series. When he comes back, he and his friends fight Arden, and Noctis gives up his life to stop the Star Scourge, while his and Lunafreya's spirits destroy Arden's spirit and the Star Scourge that had corrupted it, along with the help of all of his ancestors. With Arden and the Star Scourge gone, the ring fades away and peace is restored, even if Noctis and Lunafreya are only spirits and dead. I'm sure there won't be any other ways or versions that bring them back. Final Fantasy XVI, the last entry in the series, for now. Despite crystals being a constant feature, this game probably makes the most use out of them. Well, except for maybe 11. Because in this world, massive magical crystals, called mother crystals, are the center of various civilizations and a source of aether for different magic users. This world also has people called dominants, who have the ability to summon super powerful beings into existence. Though, the more they use their powers, the more their bodies will become petrified because of a crystal curse. Oh, and also there's this blight that's coming over the land. It's gonna make everything real unpleasant real fast. So we have Clive and Joshua, 2 princes and brothers. The former, a dominant of a fire Acon, and the younger in line to inherit the archdukedom of their region. There's also their friend Jill, who's the dominant of Shiva, and a ward of their family. One day, Clive and Joshua are sent out on a mission to try and take control of another nation's mother crystal, hoping the extra strength will help their country ward off the encroaching blight. Only the mission was a ruse set by their mother Annabella. In the ensuing chaos, Joshua discovers, with quite deadly realization, that he was actually the dominant of the Phoenix, and Clive thinks he's killed his brother. Annabelle, upset that Joshua seems to have died and that her plans didn't quite work out, sends Clive out to be a slave of the empire that she had defected to. And for 12 years he serves as such. That is, until a mission sets him up to try and kill Jill, who, as we know, is another rival dominant. He quickly ends up switching to her side, and the two are taken in by this guy named Sid, who has this theory that the giant mother crystals are somehow tied to the blight and wants to destroy them. On their first mission to destroy a mother crystal, Sid dies when the crystal's heart breaks, but Clive discovers he has an ability to absorb other dominants' powers and use them for his own. He poses as Sid for a few years and leads the underground movement. Over the game, Clive and Jill and the rebels get into various shenanigans and go about destroying the various mother crystals, making allies and enemies, and discovering that his brother Joshua wasn't actually dead, which is quite a relief for the traumatized Clive. The party also discovered that the crystals were tied to this mysterious being called Ultima, not to be confused with Ultima Weapon or Ultimecia. They're all completely different. This Ultima was also responsible for trying to set the various kingdoms and nations up against each other. See, Ultima was part of this alien race whose planet had been destroyed by the Blight, which was a byproduct of just using magic. So they planned to turn this new world, the world we're currently on, into their own over time, aligning humans with the mother crystals until they could produce a strong enough vessel, then use that vessel to cast the Raise spell, destroying mankind and recreating his alien race. Knowing Ultima's plan to destroy the world, Clive, Joshua, and the party head off to stop him, while Ultima raised a giant black mother crystal that serves as a massive ship and final boss dungeon. In the ensuing assault and battle, Joshua held off and defeated some forms of Ultima, though in the process, Joshua was fatally injured. Joshua used what power he had left to heal Clive and give him his Phoenix Icon before dying himself. With all the help of his friends and the power he collected, Clive is finally able to defeat Ultima and absorb the alien's power for himself. Even with his body starting to turn to stone, Clive used his near godlike powers to try and heal his brother, which didn't seem to work considering he was dead, and then did the only thing he could to stop the Blight from inevitably destroying the world. He destroyed the heart of the Origin Mother Crystal, and with it destroyed magic in the world forever, ending the threat of the Blight. Clive washes up on a beach somewhere half petrified, and Joshua's story lives on in a book of children's tales. And that's it. Every mainline Final Fantasy game told in however many minutes this was. This was one hell of a huge project, so thank you all very much for sticking around to the end of the video. And if I missed a favorite character or story beat of yours, that's where you come in, through the power of video comments. Perhaps I'll even make a follow-up video focusing on the card mechanic flavor wins for the Final Fantasy Magic the Gathering set. And of course, consider giving the video a like and subscribe for more egg-based storytelling and a wide variety of magic-related content. Anyhow, that's it for now. Catch you on the sunny side.